Hi, welcome to the Impact Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Beck, and we've got a great episode in store for you today. We have got one of the nation's most sought after sales trainers, coach, consultants, and thought leaders on the subject of professional selling. He's also a qualified member of the National Speakers Association $1 Million Speaker Group. So don't go anywhere. We have a lot of great information in store for you today. We're going to spend some time talking about in today's main segment some amazing topics related to how to break through when you get hung up in certain aspects of the sales process, how to ask deeper, more meaningful questions, and more importantly, some of the challenges that people face related to what's going on in their own head when they're in that situation. And our guest today is going to help you unpack some of that and unravel it and create some breakout success. He is one of the nation's leading thought leaders in professional selling. You definitely don't want to miss him in the main segment. He is the CEO of the Forrest Performance Group. They help experts in a variety of different industries create meaningful breakout sales success. They are experts in increasing profitability through training programs, event based speaking engagements and assessments, as well as one on one coaching. Don't miss it. Coming up in the main segment, our special guest, Jason Forrest. We'll see you soon. Hi, this is Joe Beck with The Sales Activist. Are you an entrepreneur or a sales professional who's struggling to generate the type of sales results that you really want and need to generate? Well, you're certainly not alone. No matter who you are, no matter what your background, no matter what it is that you're providing to the world, it's not uncommon from time to time to go into a little bit of a sales slump and to not generate the sales that you'd like to generate. For well over 30 years, I've helped entrepreneurs and sales professionals create breakout success by helping them identify better prospects in an affordable way, and more importantly, how to generate and turn them into qualified sales. So if you're struggling with sales, I'd like to help. You can schedule a complimentary strategy session with me by texting the word sales to the number 321-421-5213. That's sales to 321-421-5213, or by going on to our website at www.thesalesactivist.com. This is Joe Beck with The Sales Activist. You don't have to settle for average sales results. I look forward to talking to you soon. Take care. And welcome back to the Impact Sales Podcast. With me in the studio is our very special guest. He's a sought after sales trainer, coach, consultant, and thought leader. He's a qualified member of the National Speakers Association $1 Million Speaker Group, and he's the CEO of the Forrest Performance Group, experts in increasing profitability through training programs, event-based speaking engagements, assessments, and one-on-one coaching programs. Please welcome to the Impact Sales Podcast, Jason Forrest. Hey, Jason, how are you today?
Good. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it is our pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time. So I like to start things off when I have these segments, Jason, of asking everybody that joins us a simple question. How did you get started in sales?
Very simple. My father owns a jewelry store in North Dallas, and my mom was a debate coach, and my Sunday school teacher was Zig Ziglar, and so I just was kind of surrounded by sales and speaking and teaching and motivation, and so it was pretty easy.
Wow. Some might say you were groomed into it, so your your father has a jewelry store, not that there's any negotiation in there. You have a mother is a debate, and then Zig Ziglar was your Sunday school teacher?
Yeah, all three. So all three. So it was a good programming as a child, and kind of led me to where I am today.
Some may say that it was a master's class early on in your career.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So, one of the things that we like to talk about a lot on the show is the fact that when you look at the world we live in today, with how busy and crazy fast everything is, there's really this constant struggle to be recognized and seen, and there's this almost this commoditization of value. People talk a lot about value, but in today's world, you can grab a smartphone and find 1,000 other people that offer what most people may offer. So what you do differently, how you stand out, how you generate an impact plays a major role. What are you seeing in the market today with all the people that you're interacting with?
So we would call that the X factor decision. So that as it relates to being a sales professional, there are several decisions that a customer has to make. The decision of, are they truly unsatisfied with their product or service? The decision of, do they feel safe in the current economy? The decision of their budget, or if it's a personal purchase, their financial decision, the product decision, the brand decision, the the overall final decision, but then also the X factor decision. So that's really like, why buy you? Like, why you? Why are you? What do you bring to the table, and how do you really help the overall experience? And one of the things we also teach is and talk about a lot is that, are you an advisor or a vendor? And people they don't answer the calls of their vendors. They put their vendors off. But if they're their advisor, then they want to talk to you. Well, how do you become the advisor? We tell people a few different ways. So number one is, you have to always teach people something new. And so every single time that you're talking to them, you could always find something to educate them on, something they didn't already know, or a different perspective, something unique. And then number two is, if you can solve their hidden and admitted problems. So it's not just the problems that they say out loud, the admitted stuff. It's the hidden stuff that really matters. So how do we solve the stuff that they didn't realize they had a problem on, but you're kind of showing them, here's the problem that you didn't even know you had. And then number three is that they own the experience. I call it the rule of sales and marketing, and that is, you have to make it easy for people to spend money to improve their life. Is you have to own the process, own the experience. People can't People don't want to sell themselves. They actually do want to be sold, even though as many people that as many as my competitors out there, there's so many competitors I always talk about. People don't want to be sold, they want to buy. I actually think that's completely false. I think people really do want to be sold, because they don't want to be manipulated, but they want to be convinced. They want to be convinced that they're worth it, and their time's worth it, and the decision's worth it. And so they want to be sold. They want to be convinced.
Yep. That's a great point. You covered a lot of really important topics there. The first I want to highlight, and to a person, every single guest I've had on this podcast so far has brought up the importance of being positioned as an advisor and not a vendor, being that trusted advisor or resource. But the last thing that you just said is so powerful as well. I think you're absolutely right. I think people do want to be convinced. And I think it comes down to, as human beings, we have some certain innate fears. And I tell people when I'm working with them all the time, it's like, look, I'm not in the sales business. I'm in the fear removal business. Together, we're going to figure out the solution, and we're going to overcome some of these concerns and things that you have. And you're right when you say that the advisor helps that person through that process. They don't create barriers, they kind of remove them and help people navigate through it. Now, you know, along those lines, and certainly, you guys in the work that you do really work hard to help people differentiate themselves and stand out, how to stand on the advisor side versus being the vendor side. You know, if you were to say a couple of the things that that are impactful within the Forrest Performance Group, what are the things related to getting to that advisor status that you guys really excel at?
So our program is called Warrior Selling. It's listed as number two in the world by Global Gurus right now. And there's three elements of being the ultimate warrior. So number one is to lead. Number two is to protect. And number three is to serve. So we want to lead people from a place of pain and lead them towards life improvement. We want to lead them by showing them agendas and following a specific process, lead them away from that fear that you talked about as well. We want to protect them from themselves. We teach that the biggest competitor we have is the conversation we're not present to. So we want to protect them from the thoughts in their own head. That's the conversation we're not present to. We want to protect them from sometimes their spouse, their significant others, their board of directors, the other coworkers. I mean, that's the conversation we're not present to. So we want to protect them from that. We want to protect them from the media. Again, if you're selling a consumer purchase, it might be their parents, protecting from their parents. So we want to protect them. And then last, we want to serve them. we're serving them kind of like the idea of a servant leader. So we're serving them in the sense of their outcome frame. So it's never it's never what you're selling is what they're buying. It's always what the product or service will do for them. And so we have to figure out what is the outcome they're trying to accomplish, and we keep them focused and committed to the outcome. So my wife and I's background, we're both master practitioners in neuro linguistic programming, and there's about kind of 2,000 of us in the world that have like this level of designation. So 2,000 hour certification. It's extremely tough to get it. And one of the things that we teach in NLP, a technique that's really cool, is sometimes you have to chunk down and sometimes you have to chunk up whenever you're selling. So, for example, sometimes people get very overwhelmed with the decisions that a person has to make, and they have all these different choices, and it's called the paradox of choice even. So it's too many kind of decisions, too many choices. So you chunk it down for them instead of getting overwhelmed with all the decisions. Instead, you go, hey, let's don't worry about all of this right now. Let's just focus on this next decision, which is could be the product, or it could be the budget, or it could be the economy, or it could be whatever. We want to chunk down the decisions. Well, but other times though, the customer needs to be chunked up. Well, what does that mean? Well, they get chunked up when they get too caught up in the details. So they get too caught up in the minutia, and they get too paid. They pay too much attention to the compromises they're having to make and the things they're not going to get with your product or service. And it might be because of the budget. I would assume they can't afford all the things, and so you would chunk up. Well, how would you do that? You would say, um, you know, Mr. Customer, you're right. Based upon your budget, you would not be able to get this. But remember, it's not about this, Mr. Customer. It's about that. And you would kind of chunk them up to like, what's the overall outcome? And if we can stay focused on the outcome, then that's the juice and the why that we need to keep them motivated to keep moving forward.
That is so, so true. You're absolutely right. And that is a very common occurrence in sales environments, right? You get people that get caught up in the minutia and for a variety of different reasons, whether it's pricing or whether it's fear or whether it's just their personality type is one that drives them to look at details differently, but they miss the greater picture of the impact that it can have. And one of the things that I've noticed as well, especially with people that perhaps are struggling with sales, and I know you've seen this because you've turned around a lot of those people as well, is sometimes in addition to getting caught up in those things, they have their own personal fear over really digging deep enough and asking more detail oriented questions. Like they're almost afraid that the prospect is going to say something that's going to slow the project down versus really asking an impactful question that solidifies the agreement. And a prime example sometimes is if you're in any type of an environment where you're saving or making people money, a lot of people will focus on the money and then not stop to think, well, if you had that in your business, what would you do with it? How would that impact your business? What additional things would you do with it? How would that impact you personally? All, questions that a seasoned salesperson may ask and really solidify the relationship. But a lot of newer salespeople stop right there. Like they know they have something and they kind of feel they have to jump to a close or moving forward without solidifying the relationship. And that kind of falls into that crossover from vendor to advisor. Like, where do they make that leap? Do you encounter a lot of people that go through that? Because I know I talk to a lot of people, and that seems to be something that hold people up. They don't want to know too much; they want to know just enough, and then they want to jump on it instead of really digging and connecting.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely a fear of that that I see. We would call that a leash. So one of the books that we wrote is called The Mindset of a Sales Warrior, and the formula is performance equals knowledge minus leashes. So performance is what we do, knowledge is what we've been taught to do. So in this case, it would be ask deeper questions, ask more insightful questions, but you have to minus out the leash, and the leash could be anything. It could be self-image; they don't feel confident asking that. It could be a story that they told themselves that, if I ask this type of question, if I ask too many questions, I'm going to, like you said, stop my own sale. A fear of coming across maybe too kind of like pushy or too into their business, like another business, or maybe a rule. And a rule would be they have to kind of earn the right, and so there's kind of certain criteria that they watch for and listen for before they earn the right to ask these questions. These are 4 types of leashes: self-image, story, reluctance, and rule. And so, what one of the techniques that I would teach a person is first I would ask, well, what stops you from asking that question? Because that's really the knowledge. So first we got to teach them the knowledge, and then ask them, well, what stops you from asking that? And then they would say whatever that is, and they would say probably one of those 4 things would come up. And then what I would do is the best technique that I would do actually to coach them in that moment, my team would do, is behind every behavior is a positive intention. And so we would figure out, okay, well, what's your positive intention behind this? And they would say, so let's say they said, you know, they don't feel like they're coming across like too pushy, and it's like none of their business. Okay. And so then we'd say, okay, so we find out their positive intention. Let's say their positive intention is that they, want to be seen as like polite and respectful, and and that's important to them. Okay. And then so then what I would do then is put them in kind of a bind, and that is, okay, well, if you want to be seen as polite and respectful in the eyes of your customer, and you don't end up figuring out like their biggest problem and why they really need your services, or what's the problem they're really trying to solve. It's not usually what they ask. And you don't go 3 whys deep and you don't find that out. And now how do they actually see you?
Yeah.
And if you just sell the surface and you just communicate the surface and you're not really solving the real problem based upon the information you have, now how do they see you? Do they see you as respectful and polite, or do they see you as something else? And they go, well, I guess they would probably see me as something else. What would that be? Like, would they see you as maybe like just an average salesperson that's kind of mediocre? Um, yeah. Well, how would you want to be seen? Well, I want to be seen as polite, helpful, and someone that's very professional. Like, great. Okay, so it sounds like you have a choice to make, and that is to ask these more insightful questions and actually be seen as polite and helpful and professional, or keep doing it your way and end up not being seen that way. So what would you like to do now? So that would be what's called a therapeutic double bind. And most people, they're not going to change their highest value and change their positive intention and change what matters to them. But people put themselves in a little bit of a jam because the behavior or the strategy that they're doing is actually not congruent with what they want to achieve.
Correct.
So if you can actually show people that, and that they change usually pretty fast.
Wow. Yeah, and if you're not paying attention to this and you're just jumping in, I'm going to tell you what, you need to definitely go back and start at 10 minutes into this interview, because Jason just put on a little mini masterclass on where a lot of salespeople kind of hit a wall in a sales interaction. And I'm going to tell you what he shared was so impactful, because the idea of being able to get beyond that in yourself is very, very important. We've had previous guests that have talked about how, less than 25% of sales professionals are memorable in the eyes of their prospect. And I would go out to say that every single one of those people that are memorable do well what you just described. You get beyond that line and you work through that discomfort. You get beyond that because you know that it's the only way of getting there. And if you don't, as you described as well, you're leaving that prospect with a scenario where they have a lot of unanswered questions for themselves about you, about perhaps even your product, versus when you go a little deeper, when you ask those questions, you stand out. You definitely position yourself as that advisor, because the average person doesn't do it. And I know you've seen that.
Yeah, I would encourage people to go even further than just the idea of standing out. So we always tell people is that people are not being provocatively respectful enough.
Oh, that's great. Provocatively respectful enough. I love that.
Yeah. So that's probably the number one, I would say, flaw that majority of salespeople don't spend enough time on, that the top kind of, let's say, 10% really do a great job of. So
Yeah.
so meaning that you kind of need to be a little bit polarizing. Like, you have to take a stand on a unique point of view. You need to have a unique point of view, a unique perspective, and that makes you very memorable. That makes you stand out a lot. I mean, so for example, we are a training company, but but we birthed from a training company a sales recruiting company. And so, our sales recruiting side is I mean, it's growing way faster, 100 times faster than our sales training side. Uh, but it's because, and this is how I say it. I say, look, I was a sales training company. I 100% did not want to open up a recruiting side, but I was sick and tired of all of the other options that are out there, and I could not find a sales recruiting company that, number one, truly knew who the best sales warriors really were. They were more other recruiters that didn't really understand what sales is all about. And number two is they didn't come from an NLP background. So they didn't understand the unique brain wiring that makes up sales. Number three is we believe in third party assessments to back up our claims. They refuse to use them, which I think is a huge integrity issue because they just want to put butts in seats and fill positions in their staffing company. And number four, we decided to hat trick it and add a training program. So we onboard with our warrior selling number two in the number two in the world program, um, all of the salespeople and make them successful. And and so I tell Bill all the time, like I was sick and tired of the options that are out there, and so I had to fix it. But you see how it's like, listen to the language though. Like I was sick and tired of the options that are out there. I was tired of when I interview these other recruiting and staffing agencies, how they refuse to use third party assessments, and because the truth of the matter is, it slows their placements down, which is a huge lack of integrity. That they're not willing to back up their claims with third party assessment. You see how it's like, you see how I'm attacking everyone else?
Hmm.
Like that's very polarizing. It stands out. Now I'm not being a jerk. I'm just being provocatively respectful. I'm provocative, but I'm also respectful in the sense of I'm not like calling anyone else by name. I'm not like calling them out and saying this company and this company and this company do that. So I'm not bashing them, but I am kind of bashing as a whole the industry as a whole, and in my opinion, how it needs to be disrupted. It needed to change. And so that language is the key that people need to start mastering. Is they need to be able to say something different.
Yeah. No, that is so dead on on accurate. I'm definitely going to want to learn more about your recruiting side. And the other thing I think that's critical, and it makes sense that it would naturally kind of go in that direction for you. It's the identification, the early identification of that X factor that you mentioned. The one thing that I've noticed, certainly in my own experiences as a sales leader, as well as the organizations that I've worked with, not everybody recognizes the X factor the way they should. They see certain things and they're impressed by certain things, but not the things that are more tangible and relevant in a sales environment. And I think the earlier you recognize the X factor to know that you have the right raw materials to work with, the more you can bring that person in. And it's not that you can't bring somebody that doesn't have that and bring them along, but I think we both know that if that person has it, they're a little farther along than the average person. And then you put them into a world-class training, program, and they're going to get a much better result for it. So that's really great to hear that you've moved in that direction. Now, one of the other things that I like to ask people, Jason, it's just because we get so many people here. We get a lot of newer entrepreneurs and sales professionals that are maybe early in their sales careers. They're just getting started and they're taking their lumps along the way. And I like to ask experienced thought leaders and producers and developers of talent, if you were starting over today, what would the two things be that you would focus on most in the development of your sales career? What would the two things be at the top of the list that you would prioritize?
Well, I'm gonna go kind of one chunk up. I'm gonna kind of meta chunk this thing for you here.
Sure.
One of the things I believe is that top producers, they just think, do, and say things that are different than average producers think, do, and say, and bottom producers think, do, and say. Now, in one of our books, we call it the mindset, process, and language. But mindset, think, process, do, and language, say. And so, if you keep it real simple, though, what I would suggest is that everyone agrees with that statement. I mean, look at top performers in any area; they just think, do, and say things that are different. So, what I would always advise people is number one is you need to go find the most successful person in the area that you are wanting to sell in. So, what is that person? And you need to number two, go to them and beg, plea, whatever you need to do to be mentored by them. And number three, you need to shadow everything they do, study everything they do. You need to figure out how they think, what they do, and what they say. And that needs to be that needs to be your cheat sheet. That needs to be your cheat code. And it's interesting because we're always trying to teach our kids, here's all the things you should do. You should learn from us, old people, and the wisdom that we have. There's really a lot of things we can learn from our children. And one of the things that we can learn from our children is that if our kids want to learn something, like, so, we have three children. If they want to learn something, they go to YouTube and they watch it. If it's a girl, our girls, it's TikTok dances and mimicking TikTok dances, or if it's, our son, it's piano or it's Call of Duty. And they literally can watch it. He can watch a video on YouTube of someone playing a certain song and the keys, and he learns the song in an hour or less playing piano. You know, so but think about that. Like, we as grown-ups, though, we think that's cheating. That's how we were raised. Like, don't do that. Don't cheat off someone's paper. It's cheating. But in today's world, it's not cheating. That's just modeling. It's just what they do to hack the successful strategies and mimic other people's dance ability. They mimic their dance. They mimic whatever it is, right? And so, to me, I would say that that's the simplest way to be successful, is just do the same thing that our children do, but just apply it to something that matters and make money doing it, not Call of Duty.
Yeah, I tell you what, you can only imagine what we would have accomplished if YouTube was around when we were just starting out, right? It's true though, the world around us is different, and you are so right with that, because I see the same thing. In a lot of our grandkids do that here. We see it, and it's amazing how quickly that they adapt and learn. And part of it is because their mind isn't cluttered with a lot of the other things that's cluttered with adults' minds. They're just taken over by so many other things. But that's such great feedback.
But that's their focus, though. That's their focus. That's their choice. That's their desire. And so the same thing would go with the salesperson. If that's your desire, and you want to ride the experience coattails of someone else, which is the fastest way. That's the way that I became. I mean, I became the second youngest $1 million qualified speaker in the history of the National Speakers Association out of 5,000 members in the world, and I was the second qualified $1 million speaker. That's all I did. I found a guy named Steve Siebold, and he was the chairman of the $1 Million Speaker Group, and I got mentored by him and did everything he told me to do, and did it, three times faster than the average person would do it. So, but it's not hard. It's just it's simple to understand, but it's hard to execute because of our ego and because of our fear and because of our the biggest cop out that I hear nowadays that just makes me want to I get so frustrated at it, but I probably shouldn't. I get frustrated, and that's yeah, but Jason, it's just not authentic to me. Okay, fine. Be poor then. Be poor. Do it your own way. Do it your own way and be authentic. Find your own way. But it could take you 20 years. It could take you 20 years to find your own way and your authentic way of doing it. Or you could just copycat the guy next door that's already making $100,000 in sales and just do it his way or her way and just mimic them. And then after you make $100,000 in sales, then you can go kind of reinvent your own way, but make the good money first and then figure out how to make it authentic to you later.
That is so, so true. And it's one of the things that I tell people all the time. Like, the other thing that separates average from the truly elite and the successful people are successful people make a true commitment to personal development. It doesn't matter what it looks like, but if you know the direction you're going, the path you're on, and the career you're going after, to your point, absolutely go find the best of the best in that career, pursue them and learn from them. And when you've achieved success and you want to make it more your own, make those adjustments. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if somebody's got a proven path that they could follow. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Now, before we wrap up, tell me more about how people can follow you and what you guys are doing, Jason.
So definitely follow us. Go to fpg.com. Definitely subscribe to our newsletter and all of our great stuff. We usually do several LinkedIn lives a month. So definitely connect with me on LinkedIn and follow me on LinkedIn, as well as like me personally, Jason Forrest, as well as FPG. And again, we do usually about 3 LinkedIn lives a month and different webinars, and so definitely connect that way. And but love to reach out. And as far as FPG is concerned, we've got, I would say our biggest announcement is we have besides the recruiting side, is the actual warrior selling book that
Hmm.
again is based on the number two sales training program in the world. That's coming out by by Publishing House in the fourth quarter of this year of 2022. So that'll be
Nice.
exciting. That'll come out then, and we're making a bold statement. The book, the bold statement we're making is the 12-step process that will achieve 100% conversion rate.
Wow.
That's the subtitle. That's the subtitle on the book where you're selling the 12-step process that will achieve 100% conversion rate. So
Wow. Well, there's no doubt. I'm sure you guys can get people there. So this has been great, Jason. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been extremely impactful. I know this is going to help a lot of our listeners. Like we like to say here at the Impact Sales Podcast, sell better and impact the world. Thank you, Jason. Hi, this is Joe Beck with the Sales Activist. Are you struggling to create explosive sales success in your business? Do you look at your calendar each week and wonder, who am I going to talk to? How am I going to generate the business that I need to generate? Where are the sales going to come from? And if you have those prospects in your calendar, do you struggle to close them? Well, this is happening to you. I'd like to help. For well over 30 years and after tens of thousands of live sales interactions, I've built a proprietary sales system to be able to help entrepreneurs and sales professionals create breakout sales success. I can teach you this system as well as exactly what you need to do to fill your calendar and create significant sales momentum in your business. You can contact me by texting the word sales to the number 321 421 5213. That's sales to 321 421 5213. Or you can jump on my calendar by going to our website at www.thesalesactivist.com and schedule a complimentary strategy session where we talk about sales in your business and, more importantly, what you can do to fill that calendar and create sales success. This is Joe Beck with the Sales Activist, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Take care. Hey, we're back. The Impact Sales Podcast. This is your host, Joe Beck. Wow, what an amazing episode with Jason Forrest. Talk about just amazing content and information being shared. You know, I particularly like what he was talking about related to finding somebody that is a top producer or leader in your business, somebody that you really want to duplicate their success, and going after them and doing whatever you have to do to be able to learn from those people to be able to create the success that you want. Top producers, top sales producers, entrepreneurs, and people that create breakout success, they don't stop short. They go after what they're looking to accomplish. They find the right people and they figure out a way of learning from those folks. It's exactly what you want to do to create the success that you've always dreamed of. Jason was so gracious with his time to be able to share some amazing content with us today, information that will absolutely help set you apart from other people that are out there selling what you have to offer. So, whether you're an entrepreneur or a sales professional, make sure you stay tuned to the Impact Sales Podcast, following our content, making sure you catch every episode. You never know who you're going to catch on our show and exactly what golden nugget they're going to share about sales success. Don't miss this opportunity to continue to leveling up your game in sales by following the Impact Sales Podcast. Like we like to say here at our show, sell better and impact the world. We'll talk to you soon.